Welcome to a Kings of War Battle Report, 3rd edition. Battle Report, 2250 points. Goblins versus Northern Alliance. Scenario control. In the entirety of the Troll Wars, there was no harder battle fought than the Battle of the Boulders. Okay, I tweaked my goblin list from the last time. I have a Rabble Horde, a Sharpstick Horde with the Staying Stone, a Spitter Horde, a Leggett Gang Regiment with the Blade of Slashing, a Fleabag Rider Regiment with Mop-Up. That was followed by a Troll Horde, a Sharpstick Regiment with a Hammer of Measured Force, a Rabble Regiment, a Giant, a Winged with the Goblin Spotter upgrade, a King on a Chariot, a War Trombone, and 2 big Rock Slobbers. Lastly, we have a Flaggett with the Loot of Insatiable Darkness, a Wizard with the Boomstick, a Wizard with Bane Chant 2, another Wizard with Inspiring Talisman and Bane Chant 2, and finally a Mop-Up Launcher. All right, here's the Northern Alliance list. If you know my friend Tomb Craig, the one thing you realize is that he likes big stuff, and he cannot lie. But so this whole army list is written on one single sheet of toilet paper. 3 regiments of Snow Foxes, 2 units of Clansmen, one with a Brew of Sharpness and one with Brew of Strength. Very powerful units. Regiment of Housecarls with the Chant of Hate. 2 hordes of Snow Trolls, one of them with the Potion of the Caterpillar. A Scald. A Thane with the Talinar Standard and the Loot of Insatiable Darkness. Truth be told, I think that would be my exact iteration of that particular guy. The Lord on the Chimera with the Shroud of the Saint, and Hrim, legendary Ice Giant. So Craig just got a new white tabletop with some cool looking terrain on it. He also built 6 of these mesas that are on the table, which are all impassable terrain. And what we're doing is this is a battle in a series of battles that we call the Troll Wars between the Goblins and the Northern Alliance. So if you have questions about the table, that's what it is. We aren't trying to build terrain style tables. We're just building tables to have fun and have a theme. All right, let's look at the Goblin deployment. On the far right, I put my horde of Spitters along with the Winged. Next to them, the War Trombone, a Rock Lobber, and my Mop-Up Launcher, all out there on that end to oppose the Housecarls, the Chimera, and the Clansmen. In the middle there, I put my unit of Rabble. Behind them, my phalanx of Spearmen, with a couple of characters there for support. Then another phalanx of Spearmen with the Leggets on their side. And in that little bitty corner over there, I deployed my Trolls, a regiment of Rabble, my King on a Chariot, the Wolf Riders, I forgot their name, and the Giant, along with yet another Rock Lobber. And kind of got jammed up in my deployment with these things right at the edge of 12 inches. So that's what happened with my side of the table. Okay, on the Northern Alliance side, as I mentioned before, we have a unit of Clansmen, the Chimera hiding like a girl behind that big mesa, and the Housecarls units. Then the tremendous punch of 2 hordes of Trolls and Hrim, the Frost Giant. Around them were the wolves that were trying to delay me. And on the very far end was yet another horde of Clansmen. They're kind of hiding behind a rock over there. It's a little hard to see. But here we are. We're ready for the battle. And the Northern Alliance got the first turn. All right, this is just another view of deployment, this time from the Northern Alliance perspective. That way you can kind of see what he's looking at instead of always seeing what my side of the table looks like. All right, this is the Northern Alliance first turn. Makes me happy to see him trying to scrunch around all those mesas too. On my right, his left. The first unit of Klansmen moved up. The Housecarls moved up. The Chimera just went on a wild ride across the middle of the table, trying to angle toward those archers down there. Up in the northern part, just a general advance, both units of trolls, Rim, the characters, and then the other unit of Klansmen is trying to get around yet another one of the mesas up there. The last couple of games that Craig and I have played in our Troll Wars series, my shooting has just been dominant. So therefore, he wanted to try to get to grips as quickly as possible. So in my turn, I moved everything up a little bit. I did not move the archers, so they could take a pot shot at the Chimera. The captured dwarf gyrocopter, or my winged, whipped around the mesa to throw grenades at the Chimera, and my war trombone also whipped up around the mesa to wail on the Chimera. I tried to angle in the middle over there. I know I couldn't set a trap for that massive amount of trolls and stuff. I was just hoping to slow them down. In retrospect, it was probably a mistake to do that, because what I should have done, knowing if I could have looked ahead in time, if I could get rid of the Housecarls with shooting, I could have just moved into that table side. But on the other hand, I'm having to defend my table side because of the scenario. So maybe it wasn't a bad move. Maybe I was thinking about the time, but I'm recording this 3 days after I played the battle, so it's hard to determine my logic looking back on it. Okay, my shooting once again went off, putting wounds all over the Chimera and actually wavering the Housecarls. Kind of the same thing happened the last game, where I wavered some of his units early in the game. But most of my shooting was here on the right side, as opposed to should have been over probably on the left side where all those trolls were. But shooting at trolls to me with all that regeneration is just pointless. So I try to kill them a different way. I hate to be non-descriptive of Northern Alliance, but they're mostly a melee army, and so therefore there's not a lot of phases except move and fight. So no clever strategy going on right now except to come to grips. You can see here that the unit of Snow Foxes and that unit of Housecarls is wavered, and so they cannot move forward. And you can see all the wounds also on the Chimera on the far side. But Craig just kept doing a general advance, trying to line up his attack, so he ends up splitting his army to attack for the trolls, and this unit of Klansmen out here end up fighting through that one gap, and Rim and the other unit of trolls fight through the other gap. It's just hard when you're playing with all this impassable terrain to not have basically 3 little battles on the table sometimes. And at least he didn't put too much right in the middle. I've just played so many games where even in tournaments where there's this gigantic chunk of impassable terrain right in the middle of the table, and I'm not going to say it bothers me all that much, but I just can't think of a single historical battle where there's this gigantic rock right in the middle of the field where nobody could fight each other because there's this obstacle there. Just wanted to include this picture because I just want to show Craig has been really, really working on his Northern Alliance army, and it is starting to look wonderful on the tabletop, along with the cool terrain table underneath it. Really get that Northern Alliance feel. All right, on the upper end of the battlefield, the trolls had charged into my spearmen, doing 11 wounds. That was outstanding. The giant had thrown some axes at my Liget regiment and did 4 wounds to them, which is also outstanding. The trolls destroyed my poor little detachment of rabble and then angled back so I wouldn't be able to charge, make multiple charges on them at the same time. And you could really see here how jammed I am in that corner, and that's all my fault. I mean, I should have done something different there, and going to end up with all that being a mess the rest of the game, is trying to figure out how to come to grips with him, even though I really have decent numbers there. All right, Craig went ahead and charged his Chimera into the archers, and the reason why is there really wasn't any really good place to land, and I'd already done a tremendous amount of wounds to him in the shooting phase. So it was actually safer for him to be in combat than it was for him to be out flying around, so that I could either shoot lightning bolts at him. The war trombone was still around, so if he landed anywhere in that corner, I could easily get it back around and just shoot the heck out of him again. I apologize. This is a better picture of the top of the battlefield, and you can clearly see the things I described before. But the giant is just about, I think, to make his impact known. This is the goblin response. You can see here in the bottom corner that the Chimera did not do very much damage. It's only 3 wounds to that goblin spitters regiment. I moved the war trombone and the wing it around and just hosed him again in that melee phase. And I knew that my war trombone was going to get killed, but I thought it would be a nice speed bump to stop those warriors as well. I charged my goblin stickers back into the trolls and did some wounds there. Up on the very end of the table, my trolls went ahead and charged into the to his trolls. The Goblin King charged into some foxes there, and I don't think he did anything. I think he did a couple of wounds to them, but did not break them. Of course, there was a lot of leadership all of a sudden starting to be around there in that part of the table with the giant and everything. So probably led to their success, but just really kind of clustered up there, and I wasn't really sure how to play it. So next game, I think I'll be a little bit smarter on how to handle those tight situations like that. The other thing I wanted to point out about this turn is you notice there's a giant hole where the housecarls used to be. They succumbed to the combined lightning bolt of the wizards and the between the big rock lobber and the maw pup. It took them down without them even getting to take a single swing on the table. So good deal for the goblin shooting. I mean, I've done damage throughout the whole game. And matter of fact, I would say it ended up with killing the Chimera later, and then it killed those house girls, so it pretty much paid for itself. Just another picture of the upper end of the battlefield. You can see how hard it is to fight around those obstacles. I just couldn't get all the stuff I had to bear, and where I ended up splitting my army to go around things, now it was kind of biting me in the rear end. So just a tough situation to try to figure out what to do with. I probably should have just massed everything on one flank and not worried about trying to handle the whole battlefield. Okay, turn 3 would not be a good turn for the center of the goblin line. The snow trolls ended up destroying my unit of stickers. I tried to hurt them back, but despite 4 dice of Bane Chant, I did not get it. And so, any chance of wavering them and getting them out of the way was gone. Rim sees the opportunity to stomp all over those Luggets, and he does, and takes them out of the game. All right, down on this end of the world, the Chimera charged back into the Spitters and did a respectable 7 wounds that time and got them up to 10, but still did not break them. The Clansmen destroyed the war trombone, which I knew it would, and then kind of angled so not to get charged. The middle just got busted wide open by Rim and the trolls up there, and so now I was going to have to figure out how to deal with all of that mess. So I had to figure out something to do fast. I moved the Wolf Riders over to maybe charge the trolls in the flank eventually, or Rim if I needed to. My rabble went ahead and charged into the trolls. The trolls were wounded just a little bit. Regeneration brought some back, and this time I did get the Bane Chant off on them. My Spitters charged and killed the Chimera. He was already wavering with all the shooting wounds on him, so it didn't take much to push him over, but I did roll out my rear end, and I think I did 4 or 5 wounds to him. Like I said, it put him up to the point where, it would have taken a horrible fluke of low dice rolling for him not to be dead. My trolls kept engaging his trolls over there. I think I wavered them this turn, don't really remember. But like I say, everything up there is just a cluster, and I really can't figure out how to deal without it. And that's what I did, was I did something moving the Wolf Riders through, which I should have done probably turn one. And that's a mistake on my part. This is the other end of the table on my turn three. You can see that the Rabble did really well with the Banechan on them and got the Trolls up to 12. Um, Rim took a couple of wounds from shooting. Pretty sure it was from the shooting on this other side of the table out of the picture. You can see the Wolf Riders starting to come around the flank. My Goblin Chariot finally killed the stupid foxes, but I went ahead and moved him in position to sacrifice him for the uh, clansmen to come in there instead of my trolls getting hit in the flank. Just included this shot to show you where my winged is. I was rolling really, really well this game, and I almost feel ashamed of it. But I put a couple of wounds on those clansmen and then rolled boxcars and wavered them, so they had to stand there for a whole another turn. And I got a giggle out of it, but Craig obviously didn't. Okay, Craig had several wavered units this turn and didn't really have a whole lot of movement. He went ahead and charged and killed the Goblin King and turned toward the Giant. The and Hrim came around the corner and chunked axes at my Wolf Riders that were threatening the flank of his Trolls and wavered them with a decent die roll there. I don't really remember what happened in Craig's turn 5, and for some reason I didn't take any pictures. So this is my turn 5, and the Spitters charged into the flank of the clansmen. I don't know if he thought maybe I was a little out of range, or the Demon Rum was getting to him at this point and made him forget to turn them toward me. So I went ahead and flank charged those. I didn't expect much and probably don't get much. But anyway, it was just too good of an opportunity because my shooting wasn't going to take them down. Okay, my stalwart unit of Rabble finished off that unit of Trolls, and I've still not taken a single wound on that unit, which I thought was really cool. The Giant charged into the clansmen because I had done quite a few wounds to them with my shooting. Because you can see in the bottom corner, there's 2 magic users, so I was firing 9 lightning bolts a turn into them, plus the rock lobber when it was not they were further than 12 inches away. So the Giant hits them and wavers them, and pretty decent turn in response to Craig's turn 5. I'm really starting to think our turn markers messed up. But anyway, the clansmen decided that they didn't like those Spitters charging them into flank, and takes them up to looks like 21 wounds. And the high hilarity for me was that they rolled Snake Eyes, and they lived to tell another day. Okay, I'm even confused now. It looks like Hrim had charged the Goblin Wolf Riders and took them out. My little guys decided to make a break for it, the magic user and all those, and all I could do was turn the rock lobber toward him. My Giant must have broken that unit of clansmen. He is moving over there to take that table quarter, since we are playing the control scenario. And he was my best chance of actually getting a point because my other stuff is just literally too slow. Okay, this is the final position of the my left flank. My Trolls, I think it killed his Trolls, or something killed his Trolls. And then his Giant killed my Trolls. So in the end there was basically that little corner. His Giant pretty much had it uncontested. So he was going to get a point for Rim doing his job. Okay, I think the game ended at 6 turns, because if there would have been a 7th, I would have been able to move my Rabble into that quarter and win the game. But I was just shy of it, so I was solidly in the middle section there, but I was not solidly over into that side of the table quarter. And then my Giant did basically the same thing and moved in to take his corner unit there, or corner table section, and that made the game end in a 1-1 tie. So my final thoughts on the battle. Um, One of the things that is hard to do in the battle is to take care of the terrain. And the fact that there was so much impassable terrain made this game even more challenging than normal, because there was just no margin for uh, error when it came to the movement phase. And honestly, if I would have moved a little better, I could have probably easily won the game, but I did not. Um, my army, I mean, it performed exactly like it should. I mean, it did really, really well. I mean, if I said I wanted to change something, maybe I would have the mounted sniffs instead of the spitters. Just they're just annoying anyway, and the speed could have actually helped me win the game. But on the other hand, having that fourth horde, yeah, they don't fight very well, but they're still a horde, and they still have decent leadership. And so that horde of spitters absolutely paid for itself 160 points. The goblin shooting was just dominant throughout the game. I mean, between the shooting and the magic, I was doing quite a bit of damage to his army. And to his credit, though, he moved forward very quickly to minimize the threat. I mean, I think if I would have got turn one uh, shooting phase, it would have been even worse if that could be a thing. And my army really isn't as supposed to be a shooty goblin army. It just kind of turns out the way it is because of the artillery rules being so much better than they were in the last edition. I mean, I would have never taken the artillery pieces I have now in the last edition because I wouldn't have thought they were worth anything. So now the two big rock slobbers, those are nice. And I have the war trombone to cover the short range of the rock slobber. If something gets within short range and I can't deal with it, I have that. The mop ups, I'm sure I'm not going to take them anymore because I totally forget about them as far as the mop ups in melee, and or what I could have done with the mop ups in melee. So either that, or I'm going to make myself a big note and put it on the refrigerator behind the stairs. It tells me to reminds me of to do that stuff. Um, but like I said, I can't think that my army could have done. I mean, very balanced. I like it. I mean, like I said, if I tweaked it, maybe I'd sneak in a unit of sniffs or something else fast that could run over and grab a table quarter or contest a table quarter or something like that. And I may look to do that in the next game. As far as Craig's army, I like this iteration way better than the other two. Uh, I still think it's a little monster-ish heavy because there's not really a lot of speed in it, because everything's infantry. The only speed is the Chimera. So I do still like it better because, I mean, when I was looking at doing Northern Alliance, I mean, I was just proxying them to goof around with. I mean, the first thing I put in the list were 2 units of Klansmen because it's just a nice, solid infantry base. I mean, I mean, they're like orcs. They're like, they're just a nice, basic infantry unit. And with good armor, they have the wild charge thing. If you give them the magic items, it makes them even stronger. So I just love them. And the snow trolls, I love them too. I don't understand why they're on bigger bases than normal trolls, because it looks silly when he's fighting my trolls. Because mine are so much smaller, like they're midget trolls. But those guys are great. Not sure about Rim. He's pretty expensive, but I mean, he did take out, like, oh my God, 3 units by himself. So I better just shut up about. I don't want to offend the big guy and have him show back up again. So my giant this time, instead of getting one-shotted like he did the last 2 games, he delivered the pain and took out the whole unit of Klansmen, but they were sufficiently weakened. And as far as tactically, the ability to attack weakened units, because if you weaken them with shooting, you don't have to have over-the-top shooting. You just need to knock a few wounds off here and there, so that when you get to melee time, that 1 or 2 wounds makes all the difference in the world when it comes to nerve test time. So I mean, if somebody comes in and they're down 5 wounds, you go, oh, that's no big deal. But all of a sudden they're down. All of a sudden, the other guy gets 8 or 9 on you during the melee phase, and you're in trouble. So that's my thoughts on both armies. But the Troll Wars go on, and we'll have another game next week. And I'm not sure what that one's going to bring. I may tweak my army just a smidge. Like I said, I might want to try to figure out how to put some Fleabag sniffs in the army because I think I've got 20 models, so I mean, it's not that big a deal model wise, and they're already painted. So I might figure out how to slide those into the list. I was even laughing at Craig yesterday because I could have dropped the unit of rabble I had on the far flank and this unit of spitters down here and put a whole nother sticker horde in there and another rock lobber, which wouldn't have been nice, but it was just a thought because the points were almost identical to doing those two things. So not going to do that, but I think I will try to get some Fleabag sniffs in the army just for harassment and for sneaking around and getting those table quarters or taking a wound off a unit late in the game to cause them to take a nerve check. Okay, almost as a last second point, because it is the last second point. The thing I want to point out was at the start of this game, Craig wanted to just play kill, and I don't mind playing kill every once in a while. I don't like to play it every week, so I suggested we do a scenario. We rolled control, and the fact is, if we'd have been playing kill, I would have ran away with the game. It wouldn't even have been close because I had just done so much damage to some really expensive units. But by playing the scenario, it ended up a draw. And one of my things that I wrote for myself, I wrote myself a note before the last tournament I went to in big letters, always play the scenario. And in that case, that's what Craig did. I don't know if it was he did it on purpose or it was inadvertent, but regardless, the scenario took what would have been a lopsided loss and made it a draw. So I encourage all of you, if you're starting to play the game, I wouldn't play kill, but every once in a while, and I would play a different scenario every week, if at all possible, so that you could truly understand how your army works. I mean, it's easy to sit there and say, "Oh, my army's so killy; it'll kill everything in the world," but then a little light cavalry unit sneaks in and steals your table section, and you lose 2 to whatever. So the idea of scenarios is what makes this game good. I mean, if I say the lists make it good, I would be lying because I don't like some of the new lists. But on the other hand, I do like how the game plays, and I do like the scenarios because even if you don't have the super killy army, they still have to figure out how to defend, how to play that scenario in order for them to win. So, like I said, it's my last thoughts of the game, and I hope you enjoyed it.